The Earth itself is akin to a living organism. It has a delicate balance where every component is interconnected. It has functions that it needs to uphold so that it can keep itself alive. It has done this for billions of years. And it is said that if we were to compress the entire timeline of the Earth's history into a year, humans would only appear on the Earth on December 31st at 11 p.m. Now, taking this into context, even though humans have only lived on the Earth for a short amount of time, their presence has had a great influence on the Earth's environment. Like any other organism when threatened, it finds a way of protecting itself. This may be the case for the Earth as it begins to use something we desperately need against us, the very air that we breathe. What will happen when the air becomes toxic to our health, and what can we do to trust in the air again? As we discuss the oxygen cycle, the negative effects of anthropogenic activity on oxygen, epigenetics, and how we may be an invasive species, we may be able to find the answer to these questions.
An invasive species is an organism that causes ecological harm when introduced to an environment where it is not native. As time goes on, humans have begun to fit this description as they are constantly coming up with the ways to shape the Earth to their needs. The more that we make the Earth a more comfortable place to live in, the more that we disrupt the natural balance. It has even reached the point that the very air that we breathe has turned against us.
The biogeochemical cycle is defined as a pathway in which nutrients that all life needs, such as carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, move through the biotic and abiotic components of the Earth. The biogeochemical cycle is important because it maintains the basic needs of all living organisms, and oxygen in particular is needed for breathing and decomposition. The oxygen cycle is a cycle that helps maintain the oxygen level by moving through the biosphere, atmosphere, and lithosphere. Of these three reservoirs, the lithosphere is the largest, containing 99.5% of all oxygen on the Earth in the form of silicates and oxides. However, only a little of this oxygen is ever used, as 0.01% is released through the biosphere and 0.49% to the atmosphere. The main driving factor of the oxygen cycle is photosynthesis, as it is the process where plants create sugar and usable oxygen using carbon dioxide and water.
Anthropogenic activity such as fossil fuel combustion release pollutants such as nitrogen oxides and particulate matter into the atmosphere, which negatively affects human health. Apart from air pollution, the burning of fossil fuels releases large amounts of carbon dioxide into the air, which traps heat in our atmosphere, causing global warming. Deforestation is another anthropogenic activity that negatively affects the air that we breathe. Trees produce oxygen and help reduce carbon dioxide, and as such, deforestation disrupts the balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide present in the atmosphere. More recently, it has been discovered that due to improper disposals of plastics and the subsequent accumulation of plastic in the environment, for the first time in history, microplastics have been discovered in human blood. Microplastics are formed through the breakdown of larger plastics that undergo weathering while in the environment. Microplastics in human blood are a cause for concern as they can damage human cells and cause them to transform into cancer cells. Adding this to air pollution, it has become more and more apparent that we can no longer trust the air that we breathe.
In relation to this, air pollution can also affect our genes. Epigenetics tells us that your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affects the way your genes work. And that of course includes our health. Exposure to air pollution and pollutants such as particulate matter and nitrogen oxides have been associated with epigenetic changes that can lead to inflammation, disease development, and the worsening of the pre-existing disease of a person.
With all of this being said, it is important to acknowledge that these negative effects are a result of our own actions, and changes need to be made. Knowing about these issues is a first step, but now we need to spread more awareness about them. We need leaders and people with authority who will advocate and call for the advancement of humanity without being invasive. We have to remember that the Earth does not need us, and we are only temporary inhabitants. If humans were to disappear, the Earth would have no problem restoring itself, as it has been capable of surviving for billions of years already, even without humans. If we want to have a future on Earth, we should take this matter seriously and bring out big change.